Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Scoop podcast with Sam and Jordan. And today we're going to talk about our mid-year favorite movies. So this would be movies we've seen in 2024 that were released this year, top 10 of our collective list. We've been a little MIA this month.
Yeah, it's been a crazy July because we went on vacation for about a week and then the hurricane happened, Hurricane Beryl, and we lost power for 4 days. But then we didn't have internet for like 11 days because Xfinity is terrible. So we haven't really been able to record a podcast in like over a month. So we were going to do this in like June, but
I think it's good because we've been able to see a few more 2024 releases in the time that we've been a little OTG.
Yeah, we saw one or two more movies that we almost put on the list, but
so this will be our top 10 so far. Some of these will make the end of the year top list. Some of these might not.
So I'll start it off. We're going to start 10 going to number 1. So at number 10, we actually have a tie because we cheated. And it's Garfield and Despicable Me 4. And we kind of put these together because they're both animated and we saw both with Grace in the theater and she liked both. And we actually saw Garfield 2 times. And then, we saw Despicable Me 4 like 2-3 weeks ago.
It was the day after the hurricane.
Yeah, we lost power, so like we went to the theater to see Despicable Me 4 just so we would have air conditioning.
And everybody else was doing the same thing. You could tell.
Yeah, I think I like Garfield a tiny bit more. Despicable Me is its own like conversation because it's the 4th one, and I personally haven't seen the 3rd one. I've seen the 1st and 2nd one, but you don't really need to necessarily have seen the 3rd one to see the 4th one.
And it's the 6th Minions.
Yeah, and then there's 2 other Minions movies, so it's the 6th total.
Yeah.
In the franchise.
I eat them up. They're all good. Everything I've seen. I
haven't
seen
it's all just like, it's not complete brain dead like content, like something like Coco Melon for kids, but it's more like, I mean, obviously the Minions are, ridiculous and Facebook memes from years ago.
It's very millennial Facebook
but
cringe.
They somehow made it like this again. This is the 6th movie they've done of this, and it's still funny to me.
I started laughing. I started chuckling and giggling, chortling so much. Sam had to look over at me, and I was like, "I'm so sorry. This is funny. It's tickling me." I liked it. I thought Despicable Me 4 was great, and I obviously am like a Garfield super fan. So
yeah, you're like an OG Garfield girl.
I really am. I am an OG Garfield girl. I used to collect the comics, so.
And I think it really executed well the food element.
Totally.
Which is like the number one thing you have to do in a Garfield movie. And out of all the Chris Pratt animated voices, this one is at least better than Mario. But maybe not as good as the Lego movie, but...
Agreed. Totally.
It was good enough to watch it again with Grace.
So that's our number 10 spot. I'm going to talk about our number 9 spot. Near and dear to my heart, I've always held a John Green book to movie adaptation. So Turtles All the Way Down is going to be no different. I would actually recommend this movie for anybody who either has obsessive compulsive disorder or if you know and love somebody that has OCD. Please watch this. Like, it really encapsulates exactly what it is like to have OCD. I think my qualms with it were really just that it heavily relies on the cleanliness side of OCD. And I don't mean like, I'm so OCD, I need to clean things. It leans into the germaphobe side of things, but I loved Turtles All the Way Down, the book. It's my favorite John Green book. And that's part of Aza's like OCD is the germophobiness. So while I do like that, it is kind of like an OCD shtick. So it's like, I wish they would maybe have leaned into other aspects of OCD that are a little bit less caricatured in movies, But other than that, I mean, I definitely cried at one point. It's very, very good. Definitely hard-hitting teen drama slash romance, but like a very funny movie still at a lot of points, very lighthearted. But yeah, you can always trust John Green. So
Yeah, so I haven't seen this one, and then I also haven't seen the next one you're going to talk about.
yeah, also an egregiously self-centered choice for me to put this as number 8 on this list, and I don't care because I loved it, and it is The Idea of You on Amazon Prime. It's the Anne Hathaway movie. I'm pretty sure my review was like on Letterboxd was something like move over, my mom sold me to One Direction. This is I am the mom and I'm getting with the guy from One Direction, which is basically the entire premise of the movie. Anne Hathaway is like taking her daughter to a great value version of One Direction concert, and she goes to the meet and greet and she ends up falling in love with like one of the singers from the group. But there's an age gap and it's so weird. And to be honest with you, I'm just like an Anne Hathaway stan. Like, I just think she's great, and she puts her whole like chest into the role and does a really good job with it. And I can't pronounce his last name, Nicholas Galitzine or something. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but her across from him, they both were just very good, like genuinely good actors in this movie. And it was very, very believable, even though the entire premise is 1000% unbelievable. Um, and another one I cried in. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm also like a big fan of just like brain junk food movies that just make you feel good. And it's definitely one of those movies. Yeah, totally
Yeah, I
loved
need to
it.
check it out.
It's fun. It's just like fun, but stupid, but fun. You can take the next one.
Yeah, so number 7 on our list is Immaculate, the Sydney Sweeney nun horror movie. Um, this one was kind of like above average a little bit, but then the
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney part kind of makes it a little bit better, obviously. But um, couldn't really tell you the whole plot. I just know that it was kind of I mean, there's a ton of horror movies about nuns, so this one's kind of fit in the canon of that. Um, I think the ending, no spoilers, is pretty satisfying.
Incredibly
Um,
satisfying ending. You're like, oh, they went there.
yeah, and keeps you on your toes because most of the time you're trying to figure out what's gonna happen, and um, yeah, Alvaro Morte is like the head priest guy. He was good. A lot of like European actors who are like really good in their side character roles. Um,
I think I was just like very pleasantly surprised with how good this movie was when I'd kind of heard very polarizing things about it, like some people being like boring, this was lame, whatever. Like, it's not really like terrifying as much as it is just like atmospheric, and it kind of nails that whole like creepy nun scenario really, really good.
yeah, it had some good vibes, I feel like.
Yeah, totally. I'd rewatch it.
Um, okay, number 6, you want to talk about?
I do. We picked Maxine for number 6. We're big Ty West X trilogy fans. We're big Mia Goth fans in this household. In Mia, we trust.
This one nailed like the 1980s aesthetics.
I don't know what people were talking about when they said that this was stupid. This is literally so good. Like, if you liked X and you liked Pearl, you're gonna like this. And if you don't, then like shut the fuck up. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's very, very good. And I just think like the entire universe of, you know, Maxine Minx, Pearl, that entire like just universe is so vibey, and like it's just like if you get it, you get it type of thing. And like if you haven't seen any of the movies, they're not incredibly scary. They're just more female rage horror driven, which is just a subgenre that has been so untapped.
Yeah, they're very fun to watch, like
Yeah.
popcorn movie, and yeah, I really think it's probably gonna go down as one of the better like horror trilogies,
Prolific.
especially like since the 21st century.
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely like a couple of gory moments that happened where I had to like cover my eyes in the theater, but other than that, like it's just fun. You're kind of like rooting for her. She's like the anti-hero in a lot of ways. Um but yeah, I mean, we love to see a girl with blue eyeshadow just like killing it. So, quite literally killing it. So,
All right, so our number 5 is Civil War, the Alex Garland movie that I think we talked about a few times already on the A24 draft we did. Haven't revisited it yet, but all these movies we're mentioning, I would rewatch for sure. So I'm excited to rewatch Civil War. Um, really good atmosphere and acting, and the sound is very like incredible. How they got the like guns to fire so loud. They use like really loud prop ammunition type stuff. I heard. Um, and then just the fact that they, went the whole route of photojournalism and trying to like actually tell a story and not just like politicize the whole thing. And I think I think for what it was trying to do, it was admirable, even though some of it was maybe a little bit slow or the pacing felt a little bit off at sometimes, but I think it was really good.
nice. I still have to see it. But I think we just got a PS5 that has a 4K player, so we're trying to purchase it on 4K so that I can see it.
Yeah, we're looking at 4Ks to buy, and Civil War was the first one we saw at Target, but
But it's cheaper on Amazon at the moment, so we might buy it soon, but I'll
okay,
I'll take I'll take the next
yeah,
one.
number 4.
It's Challengers. I think all of these, actually, everything from 6 up is something we've seen in theaters, which is another really cool kind of realization that
Except one.
um
Well, I didn't see it.
I was gonna say I saw them all in
Yeah.
theater, but yeah, so Challengers is our number 4 spot. I think this was just destined to be a movie that I'm gonna like. I didn't love the movie. I had problems with the like time jumping in this movie that really bothered me, but I mean, if you like on paper, this is just a movie that I'm gonna love. Like Luca Guadagnino, done. I'm sold. Zendaya, done. I'm sold. 2 rat boys, done. I'm sold. A threesome, I'm sold.
Yeah,
Tennis, I'm sold.
well,
Trent Reznor music, I'm
yeah,
sold.
the music is really what puts this over the top.
You don't understand how many times I have listened to Blood Orange's Uncle Ace. Like that song, I am constantly playing it. Like it's ridiculous at this point. And like if I really need to get in the groove at work, I just put on that like one song that plays like from the soundtrack that's like as their I think it's called like Match Set or something. I don't know what it's called, but it's you know what the song if you've heard it. Um yeah, I mean it's just really, really good. I'll watch anything that Luca Guadagnino does, but at this point, like, it was just a really, really good movie. It's been like a cultural thing, like it's spawned Rat Boy Summer. Like, just there's so many things. Like, it's everybody knows what Challengers is at this point. It holds up though. It's very, very
Yeah, I
good.
definitely would want to rewatch it because, like you said, some of the timeline organization is a little wonky, because they jump forward and go back in time a lot.
Yeah,
Um, but it's really good.
hot, sexy, fun. I love it. It was great.
Okay, number 3 is Furiosa, the Mad Max prequel with Anya Taylor-Joy. This was also, I mean, again, these are all really good. If you compare Furiosa just to Mad Max, it's pretty obvious it's not as good as Mad Max Fury Road, but I think if you just view it as a separate entity, it's definitely on the same level as far as
Story.
like yeah, story, visuals, there's definitely parts in Fury Road that are more visually visceral and the story is more straightforward. Where again this one's a prequel and they have like kind of a 45-minute prologue without Anya Taylor-Joy at the beginning. But Chris Hemsworth is really good as the villain. I really liked the I liked one of the things I liked about this one more than Fury Road was the like geography and
Mm.
going through the different areas of resources and like who controls what specifically. Like there's the bullet farm, there's the gas town where they had to get gas, and then there's the Citadel, which is in Fury Road. So it was almost like showing how each place is not only just individually important, but like it was like it was combined into a sense of community, and obviously it kind of falls apart, but like I liked what it was trying to do with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I also think Chris Hemsworth is just like out of this world good. Like he's
Yeah, he's
insanely
going for
good.
it for sure.
So good. If honestly, if you haven't seen a Mad Max movie, you could probably still see Furiosa and you'd be like it'd be fine. Um
Yeah, you can just go cold and just watch this.
it's really
But then I would
good.
definitely recommend watching Mad Max Fury Road after.
I still prefer Fury Road to this, but by a small margin because they're just separate entities. Like they're not really comparative. Like yeah, they're in the same world, but they're very different and very similar in a lot of ways. But yeah,
Okay, so number two you saw in the theater and then we rewatched it at home.
yes, I do feel like it's one that I could rewatch for a long time. I also don't think this would end up on a lot of people's top 10 lists just because it's pretty, I guess the nice way to say it would be like it's pretty esoteric. Like it's not, it's very
It's
vibey.
like underground almost.
Yeah. It's I Saw the TV Glow by Jane Schoenberg. I can't say their name.
I'll have to look it
I'm
up.
really bad at pronouncing names, but I Saw the TV Glow is just like a really great movie. If you honestly, if you grew up in the 90s, Jane Schoenbrunn. Yes, I was
There you go.
close. Um, if you grew up in the 90s and you watched like Are You Afraid of the Dark or Nick at Night or any of those like creepy teen Nick shows that you would watch and you're like, how do they allow kids to watch this? And it felt so terrifying to you at that age. This movie is about that feeling and what it feels like as you grow up and look back on those things and lose that sense of fear over those things. And you sort of have to like grapple with losing like the nostalgia of old scary things and like who are you and how are you different than that younger self. It's also like it can't be understated that it's definitely like a trans allegory. And I think that's so cool that like I was able to go to a movie theater and watch a movie that's very blatantly about the trans experience by a trans director in an AMC movie theater. Like I just think that's fucking cool. And not only that, but it's A24. So it's like it's kind of a big deal. Like it's kind of a big deal to like get this far. I don't know. It felt cool to say, and I'm not even just giving it like a oh, it gets like a participation award because it's by a trans director. It has nothing to do with that. It's the fact that like it's really fucking cool that we can get there socially, but also like artistically, like there's a space for that now. And like I think that's cool because there's lots of people who might see this who might then understand the trans experience and how incredibly scary it is. I wouldn't understand what it is without knowing people or seeing movies like this or reading books that are like similar in like content to this, you
Yeah, I
know?
was kind of using like childhood content and almost how you, and well, obviously in her or their case, getting into the trans part of it, but like you mentioned, this movie's kind of scary at parts, and so it's like trying to, I feel, or at least I feel like it's trying to note like going through that process is obviously scary, and you're trying to hold on to like childhood like memories or ideas of what you think something is to kind of cope through all of that and to navigate the best way you can, because and I mean it's kind of clear now in the present generation, even in the 2020s, like kids growing up are almost dependent on the content they consume at this point. And I think with us growing up in the 90s, we really only had live TV at the time, to watch certain things. We didn't have the internet until we were in our teenage years, basically, but or like broad access to it, like with social media and everything. But I think I like this movie because it's distinguishing itself in a unique position where it's like, yeah, we also grew up on these things, and it almost gave me like a sense of like if someone who's like super obsessed with like the Five Nights at Freddy movie,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a video game, where it's like I like the people who love that video game and they just love that movie, and like I think the director in this I Saw the TV Glow movie kind of tried to do stuff like that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people have compared it to like the fandoms of, and we can move on in just a minute. It's easy to talk about this movie and I think that's why it's so highly ranked for us, is because it's a conversation movie. It's one that like if somebody sees it, you're like, I want to talk about this with you, because it spurns like lots of really in-depth conversation. You could use, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Nick at Night. You could use Five Nights at Freddy's, Twin Peaks. And so, it depends on who you were or what generation. It's supposed to be applicable to like anything.
It's also a lot like that movie Brigsby Bear with
Yeah.
Kyle Mooney from 2018 or 2017, I think.
Yeah, it is really similar to that one.
Um,
This one's
so shout out Brigsby Bear if you haven't seen that.
You should definitely see it if you like TV Glow. But yeah, Brigsby Bear is a lot less queer, so
yeah,
more nostalgia centric. But yeah, all right, are we ready to do number one?
Yeah, number one is Dune Part 2. We already did a podcast about it, so we won't talk too much about it. It's on HBO Max, so I've started a rewatch. I haven't gone all the way through because it's 3 hours, but the visuals still hit. I mean, it's just incredible. A lot of the shots and the scope of everything is, coming off the first movie. I think it surpasses the first movie in visuals, and then there's more characters, more in-depth characters. You actually get most, like Zendaya's like a co-lead almost in this movie, whereas in the first movie she's barely in it. And then you also get Florence Pugh and Austin Butler and then Christopher Walken. So there's like a lot more in this part. As someone who hasn't read the book, I prefer this second part to part one.
I think I agree, if I recall correctly, that I liked this a little bit more than the first one. I also think, like Challengers, it's also very like culturally significant. So many people making TikToks of their dog with a blanket on top of them, being like, it's a sandworm, or people saying like, what is the line? Or he's like, may thy knife chip and shatter, or whatever, like people using their headphones and putting them in their nose to look like they're, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, everyone's trying to mimic the aesthetics on TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they would just shout I am Paul Atreides, Duke of Arrakis. And I forget his other nickname.
Yeah.
Where he's like the desert mouse.
That's right. I don't remember what it was.
I really like Javier Bardem's performance.
Do too. Yeah.
He's really endearing in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely, I think, number one, and we'll see what could potentially beat it the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think the other thing, just to like kind of sum up everything, the funny part to me is that we've seen a lot of movies that have come out this year, but there is not a movie that I've rated 5 stars yet. And maybe that's just me being hypercritical, but even Dune Part 2, I was like 4.5. Maybe I'm being hypercritical.
I gave Dune Part 2 5 stars, but that's my only 5-star so far.
But isn't that kind of crazy though? Like, we could see something else this year usurp the throne if it's a 5-star movie. Like, it's easily going to slot in for me.
Yeah, I mean, like this time last year, we hadn't seen Poor Things, The Zone of Interest, May, December, The Holdovers, Colors of the Flower Moon.
I don't think I had seen American Fiction at this
American
time last year
Fiction,
either.
yeah. There's a lot of movies
slated that could still really take over. Yeah. We're pretty excited about what the rest of this year has in terms of releases. We won't get into all of them right now or anything, but There should be a lot of really, really good ones to come. And you'll get to hear about them because we're going to yap about them.
Well, thanks for listening.
All right. Bye.